So these next two, they came for the democracy, they stayed for the Bitcoin. Please give a big round of applause to Carliño and Ed, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello. How we doing? Let the folks, you might consider staying for a bit. How's it going? All right. Well, I came for democracy, but I stayed for Bitcoin. So I'm Carliño, or you're going to learn how a Guatemalan post-election audit used the Lightning Network to reach new audiences of pre-coiners. I'm Carliño. I'm from Guatemala. I'm a veteran of our voting tables. In my country, we mobilize a citizen army every time we vote. In 2019, I tried to run a full validating node for that year's election, but I failed. However, if you lower your time preference, and Bitcoin allows us to do that, you have a chance to try again. And so this time, and the effort is known in Guatemala as Fiscal Digital, or in English, Digital Witness. Our tagline is, together we verify every vote. Essentially, we're a crowdsourced post-election audit and have become the only validating node of the voting system thanks to Bitcoin and some help from our friends.
Hey everyone, I'm Ed. I'm a product manager at Stackwork, and we made this possible by working with Carliño to set up a workflow to audit the results. So Stackwork is a flexible and scalable business process automation tool. We leverage AI and human stack workers who are paid in Bitcoin over the Lightning Network to get work done.
Right on. So at this point, you're probably wondering, what does Bitcoin have to do with democracy? So let's pretend that votes are transactions. And if they are, then election results are blocks. Let's run full election nodes. What do I mean a full election node? To do this, you will need to verify every vote within every election in a democracy. In the elections industry, these already exist, and they're called post-election audits. Post-election auditors are the Bitcoiners of elections. They don't trust, they verified based on official elections documents. So find the post-election auditors in your country and orange pill them. Post-election audits rely on verifiable data. Just like Bitcoiners need to download the blockchain to run a node, in the case of post-election audits, you need to access the primary source information used to validate elections. This is different for every democracy, so start by researching what organizations run post-election audits in your country. Orange pill them as well, and investigate how to get access to the primary source data from your elections. So do your own research on how your democracy works, people. In Guatemala, like I said, over 100,000 people are mobilized every time we vote. This decentralized army of citizen volunteers receive their neighbors' ballots and ensure votes are counted as cast. We do this literally by hand counting every single vote at every single table in front of political party witnesses that validate that all the protocol rules have been followed. Once the consensus is reached at every table, each vote tally is assigned to the corresponding political organization. These voting table volunteers are like mining nodes, and their proof of work is the primary source document for Guatemalan elections. This makes our primary source documents public by nature, since they are the property of the people and are created by the people. If your elections don't work this way, well, maybe you live in a different kind of democracy than we do in Central America. So I'm honored to present to you Guatemala's primary source document, el acta número 4. This is an example of what every single voting table produces for every election. You'll notice there are totals summarizing the number of votes per table to each competing political organization. Each one of these documents contained hundreds of votes from the hundreds of neighbors assigned to each one of these tables. In this way, this document acts like a coin join, since they protect the privacy of each individual vote by mixing each one together along with hundreds of their neighbors. The information is public via this document, allowing for anyone like us to verify it, but protecting citizens' right to privacy. So hooray for coin joins. Woo! The total number of these vote tally sheets produced by the Guatemalan election in 2023 was around 150,000. This is because there were 6 election types, so 25 by 6. They contain over 2.8 million data points, which tally all the individual votes within them. For reference, over 4 million citizens voted in Guatemala this year in those 6 elections. So these 2.8 million data points contain around 24 million individual votes. Since we're running a full node, though, we didn't stay only with 2023. And so the prune node is what you saw before. The full node, we requested access to an additional 13 elections worth of documents going all the way back to 2015, which is unfortunately as far back as our election archive goes. Our elections authorities seem to have, had a tragic boating accident and misplaced all of our primary source documents before 2015. So it's best to get started in your country before your historical data disappears as well. This brought the total number of data points that we needed for the full node to over 8 million. And if you're wondering, this is a data point. It's a handwritten number that assigns, in this case, 3 votes to Partido Azul, the blue party, out of the total of 277 that were contained within that specific vote. That's literally how the mixing happens, protecting privacy while making the information public. So how did we do it? Step 1, get the official elections documents. In Guatemala, there is a very helpful public-facing website that you can set web crawlers to and download all the available data. On elections night, the elections authorities very proudly publish all of these documents to the internet. Separately, we use specific FOIA requests, Freedom of Information Act, and I'm not sure what it would be in your country, but going through the proper legal channels with the help of lawyers to request access to every document going back to 1985. Unfortunately, and yes, we were denied many, many times, but don't give up. Step 2, hash absolutely everything and timestamp it to Bitcoin. As soon as you get something from the authorities, make sure you hash it and you timestamp it to Bitcoin, proving that the documents are not altered in the future. In our case, this was already done by the elections authorities, thanks to our work and recommendations done back in 2019. Here I'll make a little side note. Please stick with us at 6 p.m. for the Bitcoin Film Festival. We'll be able to see Immutable Democracy and hear that story of how the Guatemalan elections authorities use Bitcoin for the first time for a national election. And tomorrow, you can listen to a talk by Rafa Cordon and Peter Todd about how they did that alongside the elections authorities. So back to where we were. You should verify that all SHA-256 hashes are correct. In our case for 2023, this test was passed, and there were no alterations to the official source documents. So we dodged the bullet there. If you do encounter incorrect hashes, so that the information that you're reviewing is being altered, then just back up everything, get incredible logs, hash everything again to Bitcoin, and start figuring out why the primary source documents of elections are being altered. Be very, very careful. Step 3, create your own data based on these primary source documents. We had these hundreds of thousands of JPEGs with handwritten information, and so I'm not sure what you're going to face in your country, but in our country, in 2019, we wrote open source software to simulate a CAPTCHA-like game, and so then, unfortunately, it relied on volunteers, and when they lost interest, that's the primary reason we failed to do this 4 years ago. However, in 2023, we partnered with Stackwork, rewarding sats via Lightning. This created a very strong incentive for our volunteers to learn what a Bitcoin Lightning transaction is like. So, young people and election deniers were the ones that stepped up. These groups, turns out, are perfectly prepared to grok Bitcoin since they are distrustful by nature. It's hard to imagine a more efficient way to reach the perfect pre-coiner crowd. Additionally, it means that our data is the product of distrust in the system as opposed to a specific political interest. And now Ed is going to tell you all about it.
Thanks, Carliño. So Stackwork allowed us to create an AI human consensus workflow to verify the votes and other handwritten values in a repeatable way with the proper incentives to ensure no single person or AI model could alter our results or corrupt our results. So here's a high-level overview of the workflow. We broke it up into 3 slides. So first step, we just scan the QR code to get the table number and the election type. Next, we detect keywords of interest that we want to extract the handwritten values from. And then we crop the area of interest for the next step when we use our OCR models. So here, after we've cropped the values, we use 3 different OCR models, and depending on the data point, we use 2 out of the 3 to check if they agree. If they do not agree, it automatically goes to human review. If they do agree, we also have a manual review threshold that we determined as 2 sigmas above the median from the official results for any one party. So if it's above the threshold, even if they agree, we still send it to manual review. So once we go to manual review, it's a human consensus. If 2 out of the 3 stack workers or digital witness users agree, then we accept the value. If they disagree, then we mark the value as illegible. Here's a short video that illustrates the process. The key thing to note with this process is our stack workers go through an onboarding flow where they have to watch a tutorial that explains the steps, and then they need to complete 10 control jobs with 80% minimum accuracy before they even get the chance to work on real jobs. So, and then furthermore, after the 10 control jobs, they get shown another control job at random throughout the process. So they have to maintain a score of 80% to continue to work on these. So here we have a summary of the Stackwork experience. Key things to note, we looked at 8.2 million data points total. 2.8 million of those were from 2023. And we awarded over 1 Bitcoin in total to our workers. 33 million of those for 2023. So, and then here's a summary of the digital witness experience. So Carliño and the team published a website called fiscaldigital.net and broadcast this on social media to get interest from new users. So we signed up 1,700 new users through Fiscal Digital. 1,074 of them qualified, meaning they completed the control jobs with 80% accuracy and actually did real jobs. So those, you can look at those people as people who earned their first Satoshis. So it was pretty exciting to be able to have these people earning their first sats. And then 226 people earned over 90,000 sats equivalent of $30 at the time. And our top 10 users earned 500,000 sats each, with a total sats earned for digital witness users of 66,158,542 sats.
Make it rain! Make it rain! Bitcoin Lightning Faucet. So a quick recap. Step 1, get all official election documents. Step 2, hash everything and timestamp to Bitcoin. Step 3, create your own data based on official documents. And finally, step 4, publish your results and provide recommendations. Compare to official results and just contrast. Where are there differences? What did you find? You can download our 82-page report for free by scanning this link and read all about what we've learned so far. It's very important to do these recommendations because our 2019 recommendations have already resulted in the immutable backup that you can again hear about tonight watching the Immutable Democracy 16-minute documentary, and tomorrow by listening to Peter Todd and Rafa Cordon at the Galois stage. This proves that it is possible to have a positive influence on the election system if you work hard enough. Now, we seek to drive down the cost of running a full node for the election in 2027. We're the only full election node in Guatemala, and I have to say that centralization is lonely. We need more nodes. And our goal is to ensure that for the next Guatemalan election in 2027, there will be many, many more. Perhaps the people running full election nodes might become interested in running a full Bitcoin node as well. But I digress. So let's discuss the elephant in the room. What if your audit contradicts the results? You must be able to prove that the primary source documents you used are the same as the official documents. This is where your timestamps, your hash logs, multiple backups, and Bitcoin are essential. Consider them your get-out-of-jail card. You must also provide replicable methodology so that anyone with access to the same source files can get to the same outcome that you have. Centralization will not protect you, so you must encourage others to follow your lead. If you cannot do both of these, then I recommend that you do not attempt this, because you have to be prepared to lose friends and get sued by the state. Conservatives will call you a Soros puppet, and liberals will consider you a Trump supporter. Thank you. How about some food for thought as we wrap up? Most developing countries in Latin America, Africa, and Asia that are democracies also use paper ballots and have similar voting mechanisms, like Guatemala, which means our model can be replicated to many elections all over the world and reach completely different audiences of pre-coiners. Panama, sorry about that. Panama may have a referendum next month in December, mobilizing their entire voting system that's just like Guatemala. El Salvador and Costa Rica both have elections on February 4th of 2024. Panama, Dominican Republic have national elections in May. June, the entire federal Mexican states are doing their elections. October, Chile, Uruguay, and Brazil, all leading up to the good old US of A in November of next year. Let's run full nodes. In summary, I believe that a new generation of Bitcoiner can be born out of democratic elections all over the world. Let us use these elections to bring in a very different audience to the movement, one that came for democracy but stayed for the Bitcoin. Thank you. Questions? It's all explained. Ooh, there we go.
Has President Nayib Bukele endorsed a project like this for the elections that actually are going to be coming on February?
I have not spoken to anyone in the Bukele administration, and if anyone is here, I'd love to explain how using this system, Bukele could be the most transparently elected president in the history of the world.
Make it happen.
All right. Well.
Hello? Hi. Have you heard of Ron Rivest's 3-ballot system to try and address the problems that you've addressed here?
Sorry, where are you at?
I'm right at the back. Can you hear me?
Yeah, hey.
Yes, you can hear me without seeing me. Okay, so have you heard of Ron Rivest's 3-ballot system, which he devised in the late 70s to try and fix the problems that you fixed with this system?
I have not. It's an electronic voting system, or?
It's a paper ballot system that uses cryptography across 3 ballots to make sure that all the ballots are counted and the whole system is verifiable. I'll come and see you and talk to you about it.
Please do. Paper ballots are the way to go, is what I'll say. So if there's awesome stuff to do on top of that, let's go.
My question is, can other people, like other Bitcoin nodes, verify the elections independently? Or do you need to run special software on top of it?
So I highly encourage attending Rafa Cordon and Peter's talk tomorrow and watching the documentary tonight, Immutable Democracy. What on-chain Bitcoin allows, and everyone that has their nodes, is to verify that the hashes of all of these documents are timestamped to Bitcoin via transactions. So if you have the information of the transaction and you have the JPEG file that you can get the hash from, then you can confirm that the documents existed at a specific point in time. What we're presenting here is essentially the layer 2 solution of what you can do once you have an anchor of truth to the documents, which is what on-chain Bitcoin allows.
Great application. How did you come up with the idea of doing this? What's your background? Why this?
Sure. We're mobilized a citizen army every 4 years. I joined the ranks in 2011 and again in 2015. And so I'm a 4-time election, because we do 2 elections every year. I have 4 elections under my belt as a election veteran, and it's the most beautiful civic experience that I've ever had in Guatemala. It's the only time in my life where I've felt that as a citizen, I actually am a part of the Guatemalan state. The rest of my life is another matter. But it's an incredible opportunity to meet neighbors, and it breaks down the barriers that we've constructed around us. So the experience is so beautiful, and the creator, I think, is essentially like a Satoshi Nakamoto character. His name was Arturo Gerbrujer Asturias, and there's so many similarities with Bitcoin that I'm in love with our election system, and I believe that we can, in Guatemala, have the best election system in the world if we use Bitcoin. So it's my attempt to marry the ideas of 2 of my biggest heroes. Along those lines, Guatemala's election system comes from 1982. So everything I just described and the citizen army is technically the result of our last revolution. It's what we fought and died for last time we went to war with ourselves. And so these tables, this system is what I'm most proud of, and we are this close to losing them. And so we have to keep them. The success of the Guatemalan voting system back in 1985 was so surprising because the idea was distribute out ballots to 100,000 people. Like, oh yeah, that's going to work. Everyone was like, that's insane. The people running this were told that they were crazy. But the success of trusting citizens was so large that actually El Salvador adopted the Guatemalan system shortly thereafter. So our election authority is called the Tribunal Supremo Electoral, and the Salvadoran election authority is called the Tribunal Supremo Electoral. So the Guatemalan and Salvadoran system are the most alike election systems in all of Central America. But then Costa Rica also adopted it, and Bolivia, and Ecuador. So this has already proven to spread, and it's my way of sharing with the world that the experience of being a voting table volunteer is very similar to Bitcoin, and so it'll be easy for people to make that leap. Right now? Good for Ed.
Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, give Carliño and Ed a big round of applause. That was great.